What is up, guys? Welcome to the South Coast. On today's video, we're going over my top 5 maintenance tips for all you new zero turn owners. Let's get into it. All right, guys, so maintenance tip number 1, keeping that air filter clean. You got to have a nice clean air filter. You want to clean it pretty regularly, depending on what type of grass you're cutting, what type of lawn you're cutting, whether you're in a dusty situation or if you're cutting in the mornings when it's cooler and the ground's still got some dew on it. That will affect how often you need to clean your air filter. But if you're like me, you prefer to cut when the grass is dry. That also means you're going to be kicking up a bunch of dust. That really fine dust is what will really wear out a mower engine faster than anything. So you need to make sure you're cleaning your air filter. If you have an air filter that's not easy to clean, make sure you have extras on hand so you can swap those out. You want to have nice clean air going into your engine at all times. That really fine particulate can get through those air filters. It'll get into your cylinder walls, wear out your piston rings, and you'll end up losing power over time, and eventually you just won't have the power in that engine to keep cutting. So you got to keep that air filter clean. On this bad boy Maverick, the Kohler engine has an air filter that's got an inner element and an outer element. That outer foam element can be washed with soap and water, and then this is something that I learned fairly recently. You're supposed to oil that outer element. So check with your manufacturer, see what their maintenance requirements are for the air filter. Make sure you're keeping your air filter clean. All right, guys, number 2, keeping that oil changed. You definitely want to read the book on your engine to see when you should be changing the oil. On my mower, I usually do 1 to 2 oil changes a year. Usually I'll do one about mid-season, mid-mowing season, and then I'll do one at either the end of the mowing season or the beginning of the mowing season. So I know going into my hot and heavy mowing period that I got good fresh oil in there, a good oil filter, and I'm good to go. Changing the oil isn't the only thing you need to do on these engines. You need to be checking that oil as well. So every time before you mow, every other time, pull that dipstick out, make sure your oil still looks good, make sure you still have it at the right level. Some of these engines, especially as they get older, they'll start burning a little bit of oil as those piston rings are wearing out. They'll start burning a little more oil as you're mowing. So check your oil level, make sure you got enough oil, because that will kill an engine faster than anything is low oil or no oil. So change your oil when you should, and check your oil every time you mow. All right, guys, item number 3, keeping your mower clean. So this is one thing that a lot of people overlook. You just spent all afternoon mowing, you're hot, you're tired, you're ready to be done. You just throw the mower in the shed, in the garage, wherever it is that you keep it, and you don't get all that buildup of grass and dirt and mud off of the mower. So this goes from the engine all the way to the deck. Take the time, at least use a backpack or a leaf blower or compressed air from an air compressor. Try and blow off that excess grass. You want to get it off of the deck, out from under the deck, and then out of the engine. These engines are all mostly air cooled, unless you have a real top end mower with a liquid cooled diesel engine or something like that. They're air cooled, which means on the cylinder heads and the engine block, there are fins that help dissipate that heat. You need to make sure those fins are cleaned out so the air can flow through there properly. These mowers have basically a fan on top of them. You can see it when you're looking at the top of the mower. There's going to be a grill over it. As the mower's running, that fan's moving. It's pulling air through those cooling fins, but it's also pulling grass and dirt in as you're mowing. So you need to clean those fins out. Otherwise, you're going to end up with hot spots in your cylinder heads, and that's stuff that isn't covered under warranty repairs for most manufacturers. So make sure you're cleaning that out, getting it all cleaned up, making sure your mower can keep itself cool. On the deck, you want to make sure you don't have a bunch of buildup on the top of the deck where your belt is constantly running through there. You don't want to add too much heat to the belt. You don't want anything getting between the belt and those pulleys. That'll make that belt jump off it'll prematurely wear out your belt, and you'll end up with problems having to change belts all the time and put belts back on pulleys, all that sort of stuff. So keep the top of your deck clean as well. The underside of your deck, you want to keep that clean because A, it's going to improve your cut quality, and B, it's going to make that deck last a lot longer. On these bad boy mowers and a lot of sort of upper end residential mowers and into the commercial mowers, they're going to have a fabricated deck, meaning that it's built out of 1/4 inch, 3/16, basically thicker steel, 11 gauge, pretty much 11 gauge and up. That's a thicker steel, but it still needs to be maintained. You still need to get all that buildup out from the underside of these decks to keep them from rusting out as you're cutting, especially if you're cutting in wet early morning grass. The water on that grass will cause it to stick to the deck. That grass will hold that moisture against the steel, and it'll start rusting. The underside of these decks, even though they come from the factory painted, as you're cutting, that paint gets worn off pretty quick. Probably within the first couple times that you cut, a lot of that paint's going to get worn off just from the abrasion of the dirt and sand and grass and stuff as you're cutting. So that will allow corrosion to start happening, especially when you're cutting in wet conditions and that grass is sticking to the underside of your deck. So you need to make sure you're scraping that deck. Don't have to scrape it every time. I usually try to blow mine off with the blower every couple cuts, and probably every 4 or 5 cuts I'll get under there. That's when I'm taking my blades off to sharpen them and scraping the underside of the deck. So make sure you keep that deck clean, top and bottom, as well as the engine. Make your mower last a lot longer. All right, guys, item number 4. Make sure you're putting grease where grease is supposed to be. So on this mower, there's 8 different spots to grease. There's 2 on these forward control arms for the deck. There's 2 for the adjustment on the input arms, the handles basically. And then there's 4, 6, and then there's 2 pulleys underneath this deck that get grease. You need to make sure you're keeping all those spots greased. When that grease wears out or gets pushed out or gets full of dirt, it will start wearing out those moving parts, and that's not good for anybody. You don't want to have to be replacing all these parts, whether it be the bushings or the bearings on those pulleys. So make sure you're keeping everything greased. All right, guys, item number 5, keep sharp blades on your mower. This is one thing that often gets overlooked, especially by new mower owners. You think you got nice fresh blades on there, you can just cut all year long and you're good to go. And that may be the case for folks with smaller yards or folks who don't necessarily cut every week, that sort of thing. But here I cut about 3.5 acres once a week during peak mowing season, and I'm sharpening my blades probably about every 3rd or 4th time I cut. So probably about once a month during that heavy mowing season, I'm sharpening those blades, and to be honest, I'm not keeping up with it as much as I should. Keeping sharp blades, your mower is going to cut better. You'll end up with a better finished product at the end of the day. It's going to be better on the engine because you don't have as much drag as you're cutting through the grass. You're slicing through the grass. You don't have as much drag on that engine. So your RPMs are going to stay higher up where they need to be. It's going to be better for the operation of the mower. And 3, your grass is going to be healthier. Whenever your mower blades start getting dull, you start ripping the grass instead of cutting it clean. And when you're ripping the grass, that's when you end up with the little brown tops on all your grass. So your yard doesn't look as good. Your grass isn't as healthy. It doesn't grow as thick as it would as if you were getting a nice clean cut with sharp blades. So make sure you're keeping good sharp blades on your mower. You'll end up with a better cut and a better operating mower. All right, guys, here is a bonus tip for you. Make sure you have some spare parts on hand. The list of your spare parts is going to change as the mower gets older and older, but you're going to want to have a few spare parts on hand. Couple right off the bat. Get a spare air filter to just keep ready to go. Like I said in that first tip today, you're going to want to keep that air filter clean, keep it free of excess buildup. And if you got two air filters, you can swap them out. You don't have to wait on that outer element to dry before you get back to mowing, and you're good to go. 2, keep some oil on hand. You don't necessarily have to keep a whole oil change worth of oil and filters on you, but keep an extra quart of oil in the garage just in case you need to top it off here and there. Make it easier to keep up with, and it'll be less of a headache, less friction when you're trying to get out and mow. You'll be less likely to make a poor decision and start mowing when you have low oil. If you can just go grab that quart of oil, top it off before you go, and you're ready to go. Belts, you want to keep at least one belt for your deck and one belt for the drive. I don't know about all mowers out these days, but this mower uses 2 different belts. It uses a belt for the deck to drive the blades, as well as a belt to drive the hydro gears. So it's 2 belts. Either one of those belts breaks on you, you're sort of out of luck for cutting that day. You'll have to order a belt, wait for it to come in. If you get lucky, you can go to a store and get one, but keep some extra belts on hand, and it'll help you out. Last thing I want to tell you to keep on hand, a second set of blades. Going back to keeping your blades sharp, it's easier if you can have a second set sitting on the workbench or sitting on the shelf in the garage ready to go. You have those already sharp. Whenever you need to change blades, you just swap them out real quick, and if you got more time later, you can come back and sharpen that other set of blades so it'll be ready to go next time you need it. I think that's all I'm going to put in this video. Still got a bunch more tips and tricks bopping around in my head, so if you like this video, hit that thumbs up, click that subscribe button, and if you have any tips or tricks to help out other mower owners, please drop them down there in that comment section. If they're good enough, I'll put them into my next video and we'll talk about them right here. So that's it. I hope y'all have a good one. We'll catch you next time down here on the South Coast.